Hello everyone, and welcome to another Creative Design Team YouTube collaboration where this month we are celebrating mothers. You may have already seen some of the videos that have aired already. I will have a link to a playlist below, so make sure you check out all the wonderful projects that have been shared by these amazing ladies. I decided for my project today that I wanted to make a Mother's Day card, and I wanted to make it a little bit special with this Wild Berry Blast specialty cardstock. I love the patterns on these, and there's silver foil, gold foil, and this one looks a little bit silver, but it's a little bit of a holographic treatment as well. And I've decided to create a project in Cricut using an image from the Love Each Day Close to My Heart collection. The Love Each Day collection has projects that have already been designed for you, so you can make this exactly as is. Everything's done to make this A2 size card with the teacups, and there is even an envelope that you can do. But I decided that I wanted to change this up a little bit and make a slimline card. So what I've done is copied and pasted one of the teacups. I've sliced a heart out of that teacup to give it a bit of a pattern, and I've also created a slimline card, but I want to make it into a shaped card. So I've done some welding as well with this to create, this is the 3.5 by 8.5 inch back, and this is the front, and I've got a score line, and when this is all cut, this will be the shaped area for the teacups to sit on. You can see that I've changed the colors on these cups to represent the foil treatment on the cardstock, and I've changed the colors of the flowers because I thought black and grape colors would look lovely up against this paper. I've got my pieces all laid out in front of me here. These are the teacups, and I've got several layers on the teacups. This is the base layer, and then for this teacup I've got the gold foil paper, so that's a nice metallic look underneath here. And for others, instead of putting the gold, I've put the silver. So these are going to be adhered to the edge of my card panel, and there is a score line here 3.5 inches from the left edge, but I'm not going to fold it as yet because it's going to be easier to construct with all these little pieces while this panel is still nice and flat. What I'm doing when I'm taking things off a Cricut mat and there's all the different colors coming off the mat, I lay them out so that it's easy to put things together. So you can see this flower will layer all on top of itself. There's 4 layers to it. And this little flower has got a couple of layers. These black ones here have centers that are cut from the foil coated cardstock, and this one here just lays on top of itself like that. So I'll go off camera and I will adhere all these pieces together because I just need to use some liquid glue, and you don't want to see me paper piecing all of those. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put the teacups together, and I'm going to do a little bit of treatment to this. I've got all my floral and my leaf embellishments all adhered together. I've used liquid glue to adhere these, and because I've got foil paper, you do need to put a block on top of these and let them sit for a little bit for the glue to adhere properly. The next thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of texture and shadow onto the base layer of these teacups. This is like where the liquid is, and I didn't want that to be totally flat. I have cut these from almond cardstock. So what I'm going to do is just ink these up around the edges and give that a bit of a look so that it's not quite as flat. I'm just going to bring in some more ink, and I'll keep putting my little teacup over the top to see how that's going. I'm liking how that looks, so it's darker on the outer edges and lighter in the middle, and I think you'll agree that when you look at it in comparison to this one, it does give it just that little bit of extra subtlety, and I'm going to do that for all of those teacups. I really like the aqua glue. You can get a fine tip to it if you don't squeeze too hard. And it does give you time to wiggle things around so that you can put everything on and match it all up perfectly. So now that you can see how that comes together, I'm going to do the same treatment to the very base layers of these teacups, and then I will be back to show you the final treatment to these cups. Now I've got all the teacups adhered together, I'm going to go in with some archival black ink and ink up around the edges so that they have a little bit of a three-dimensional look to them, and this will help them stand out a little bit when they're placed on the white card base and up against each other. Putting the same color tones on top of each other, they sort of get lost. So I think this is going to be just the right amount of definition to make them stand out. For the inside of the handles, I've got a little teeny tiny brush that I can use to get into those sections. You could use a sponge dauber, that would work quite well. And don't stress if you go a little bit too much. It does slide around on top of the foil, but there you can buff that off. So I'm not stressing about that. I just don't want this inside part of the cup handle to remain flat. So I'm just going to get my good old face washer and take a bit of that ink off and smudge that around. The foil acts as a resist to ink, so it's not always permanent, and the archival black does come off a little bit, but I do like how this gives a three-dimensional look to the teacups. I'll put a link up at the end of this video and in the description below to a Wildberry Blast cardstock makeover video that I did recently, where I changed up the colours of this Wildberry paper and gave it a total makeover and a totally different look. So if you'd like to see how I did that, you can click on that link and check that out. So you can see I've placed the teacups over the edge of the card, and I've brought in my iPad to help me with the placement of the leaves and the floral elements. I've basically kept this part here the same as what was on the original file with the addition of that one, but I want to be able to reference this for the placement of everything. So now that I've roughly worked out the placement, I'm just going to get my glue and tuck these in and around the teacups. And before I go any further with this, I'm going to stamp Happy Mother's Day. This is an old Workshop Your Way, a retired set, but I really like the font and the Mother's Day sentiment in that. So I'm going to flip over my Versamat. Hopefully I won't get my head in the way too much because I haven't folded this as yet, but I don't want to adhere everything down and then do my stamping and find that I've messed up my stamping. So I'm just going to let that ink seep in a little bit. So now I can go ahead and start adhering all the other pieces to this card base. It's a simple case of just lining everything up. Now these have obviously got layers on them, and I could use foam tape to lift that section up a little bit, but I don't want to make it too bulky, so I'm just going to keep going with these as they are. So all the floral elements are on but one. I decided not to put this one on here, and I haven't used any foam tape at all because there's quite a lot of layers without the foam tape. So if I wanted to put this through the mail, I wanted to make sure that that would go through okay without any added extra dimension. Because there are 4 layers to some of these flowers and there's 3 layers to the teacups, and then you stack them on top of each other, I think there's enough dimension there unless you were going to hand gift this card. I did decide to put another strip of black paper underneath to give some weight to this, and I cut a 3.5 by 8.5 inch panel of white daisy and adhered that to the base of the card. I want the card to be able to stand up, and with all of this on there, as I said before, there's quite a few layers. It almost gives like a chipboard feel with the layers of all the teacups, so I wanted to add some extra sturdiness, and I cut this piece of black at just over 2.5 inches so that I had a piece to stick out and finish off this edge. I think that added a nice little touch to the edge of the white here. I really love how this has all come together. The little heart that's on the inside is the cutout heart from here. I did put some little black enamel dots on there just to finish off those little sprigs, and I did change the arrangement of the leaves up here. I decided to put one of those leaves underneath this flower here. I really like the black flowers and how they pop against the bright pink foil. As I said before, make sure you click on the playlist below to check out all the other Creative Design Team projects. Thank you so much for watching along today. I hope you've enjoyed how this has all come together. Happy crafting, and bye for now.